Have you ever noticed that you're always the calm one, the one who explains, the one who gives grace, the one who says they don't mean it, even when it hurts? You're the understanding parent, and somehow no one ever asks how you're holding up. If you've ever felt emotionally tired, not because you don't love your child, but because you're always the one absorbing everything, stay with me, because this kind of exhaustion deserves to be named. When you're parenting a child within the spectrum, you're often told, directly or indirectly, to be the understanding one, the flexible one, the patient one, the regulated one. And while understanding your child deeply is a strength, there's an emotional cost that rarely gets talked about. Today, we're talking about what it means to always be the understanding parent and how that role, when carried alone, can quietly wear you down. This isn't about complaining, and it's definitely not about loving your child less. It's about finally acknowledging what you have been carrying. Ready? Because this is Kind Parent Collective. Less perfect parent, more real one. How parents end up in the understanding role. Most parents don't choose this role, they grow into it. You learn your child's triggers, you learn their nervous system, you learn how easily things can escalate, and over time, you become the one who explains behaviors to others, softens expectations, steps in before things fall apart. You're not just parenting your child, you're buffering the world for them. That role often starts as protection, but over time, it can become isolating. Being understanding doesn't mean you're not human. There's an unspoken expectation that if you understand your child, you shouldn't be affected. That if you know it's sensory overload or nervous system overwhelmed or delayed processing, then it shouldn't hurt when you're snapped at, ignored, pushed away. But understanding why something happens doesn't make it emotionally neutral. You can understand your child deeply and still feel tired, sad, or worn down by the impact. Both can be true. You absorb what others don't. Often, being the understanding parent means you absorb what others can't or won't. You absorb the rough moments, the emotional spillover, the aftershocks of dysregulation. You're the safe place, which means emotions land on you more freely. That's not a flaw, that's trust. But being the emotional landing pad day after day takes energy, even when you're doing it with love. Why it's hard to admit this is heavy. Many parents feel guilty naming this cost. You might think,
other parents have it worse. My child can't help it. I chose to be patient.
So instead of saying, this is heavy, you say, I'm fine, it's okay, I can handle it. But silence doesn't make the load lighter, it just makes it lonelier. Emotional labor is still labor. Understanding requires work. You're constantly reframing behavior, regulating your reactions, choosing empathy over instinct. This emotional labor is invisible, but it's not free. Just because it doesn't look like a meltdown or a crisis doesn't mean it doesn't cost you something. And over time, that cost adds up. When you're always the calm one. Being the calm parent often means suppressing your own reactions. You pause instead of reacting. You soften instead of snapping. You hold it together so your child can fall apart safely. That level of self-regulation is a skill, but it's also effort. And when you're always the regulated one, there's often no space left for your emotions to land. The quiet grief no one mentions. Some parents experience a quiet grief in this role, not grief for their child, but grief for being misunderstood, being overlooked, being assumed to be endlessly okay. You might grieve not being asked, how are you really doing? Or not having the same grace extended to you that you give so freely to others. This grief is subtle but real. Understanding can turn into self-erasure. When you're always understanding, it's easy to minimize your own needs. You might tell yourself,
my feelings can wait. They need me more. I'll deal with it later.
But when later keeps getting postponed, parts of you can start to feel invisible, even to yourself. Caring deeply for your child should not require disappearing in the process. Why resentment can creep in and why that doesn't make you bad. Sometimes resentment shows up quietly, unexpectedly. Not resentment toward your child, but toward the role, toward always being the one who understands first, explains first, adjusts first. Resentment isn't a moral failure. It's often a signal that your needs have been sidelined for too long. You're allowed to have limits. Understanding does not mean limitless. You can be compassionate and need space. You can be patient and feel depleted. You can support your child and need support yourself. Limits don't make you less loving. They make your care sustainable. What support actually looks like for the understanding parent. Support isn't always advice. Often it looks like being believed, being listened to, being allowed to say, "This is hard," without correction. You don't need someone to remind you why your child behaves the way they do. You already know. You need someone who remembers you in the equation. Letting yourself be human models safety too. Here's something powerful. When your child sees you honor your own emotions gently, safely, they learn that feelings are allowed. You don't have to fall apart. You don't have to overshare. Simply being human, not endlessly absorbing, teaches balance. You don't need to give up understanding to take care of yourself. This isn't about becoming less patient or less empathetic. It's about widening the circle of care to include you. Understanding your child doesn't mean abandoning yourself. The most sustainable parenting happens when both can coexist. If you're always the understanding parent and you're feeling tired, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've been carrying emotional weight with quiet strength. You're allowed to name that. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to be supported too. If this video made you feel seen, consider liking or subscribing so this space can reach more parents who need it. And if you know another parent who's always the understanding one, share this with them. You don't have to stop understanding your child, but you don't have to disappear to do it. You matter too. Please like, share, and subscribe. Remember, and if today was rough, you still did enough. Catch you on the next one.